As I was saying, in our system of Saj Mark, the most important thing is constant remembrance. It should be really constant, not like one American boy who came to Babuji in, I think it was Cleveland or somewhere there, Lakewood, Ohio, and said, Babuji, I am frequently practicing constant remembrance. That is not what we mean. Constant remembrance must be continuous 24 hours of the day, in sleep as much as in waking consciousness. Babuji Maharaj said, if you can do constant remembrance for 1 week, then it is impossible to stop. Because like the breathing, which is, unconscious, it goes on naturally. Constant remembrance becomes established and it cannot be stopped. That 1 week is crucial. There are so many benefits to constant remembrance. For instance, when you are in constant remembrance, no other thought can enter your mind. Nothing good, nothing bad. Because there are no such thing as good thoughts and bad thoughts. What is good for me may be bad for you. Isn't it? So, all unnecessary thoughts are automatically excluded. The abhyasi is protected automatically because in constant remembrance, whatever you do, you don't have the effects of those samskaras. So you are able to do work, be active in life without samskaras adding on to yourself. Because this is the only state in which a human being can exist without really creating samskaras. The main advantage is that once Babuji starts cleaning and you stop adding samskaras, it is easy for him to take it off, whatever is you have brought with you. But if not, he is cleaning on one side, you are adding on the other side. It's like somebody is sweeping and people are throwing paper on the floor all the time and they are going on sweeping. I have always felt an urge to tell a humorous story here, about a picture of Laurel and Hardy way back in the 30s, when I think the vacuum cleaner was newly introduced. A vacuum cleaner salesman comes to their house and he says, I want to demonstrate. They say, please explain first. So Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy, they listen to everything. And then they say, it can remove everything. He says, yes, anything. Waste paper, dust, feathers, anything. So they say, feathers. And they pluck a couple of chicken and throw all the feathers into the bedroom, And then they plug in the vacuum cleaner, there's no power. So that is what happens. We are creating for him to clean. And he is the vacuum cleaner. And if he decides, I can't go on like this anymore, then we have finished. Because what we have brought is still there and what we have willfully added is still there. So we have come into the earth, into this world which says so much, and we are going to leave it with so much. That is why our subsequent rebirths are grosser and grosser. And it's like a stone falling, which according to the laws of science, it accelerates. 32 feet per second per second. First second 32 feet, second 64, third second 96, like that. So our pathan, as we say in Hindi, our fall is progressively faster and faster. In constant remembrance, this danger is largely avoided. And in sleep, what is the benefit? Because if it is established in myself so strongly, in sleep also my subconscious is busy with the master's thought. I cannot have nightmares, I cannot have bad dreams. In fact, I may not dream at all. Western psychology may say, well, that is unhealthy. But here it's not a question of health or unhealth, see. It's a question of what is good for spirituality. Spirituality does not guarantee health. Spirituality guarantees normalization of the human being. Normal physique, normal physical health, normal length of life, normal happiness, normal miseries, everything. All normal. Because life is something which goes up and down, like the day, you see, which has day and night. You cannot avoid one half of life. It's like saying, give me a coin with only one side. Can anybody on earth give you a coin with one side? It's not possible. So life means the dualities of existence, day and night, suffering and pleasure, health and ill health, life and death, the paramount oddities, opposites. So we have to be prepared to face all this. Constant remembrance removes even the fear of death. Because when I am in remembrance, if death should come, I won't even know I am dying. I go to bed, and for others I am dead because they see the body which is not moving, which is not active, which doesn't speak, which doesn't laugh. But for the soul itself, it is as it always was, in a state of remembrance. It was remembering not because of the body, but because of the consciousness. And the soul takes that remembrance with it. Automatically, its merger with the infinite, with the master, whatever you want to call it, becomes highly possible, although otherwise it would be improbable. And as Babuji said, one who is remembering is remembered. Because the very fact of my remembering him, as he used to say, knocks on the heart of the master. And once the master comes out and peeps to see who is remembering me, your job is over. That is why, as I said earlier, we don't need to meditate thereafter. We only need to do his work. Because out of gratitude for him, there is nothing we can give him in return for all his munificence, his grace, his blessings, his mercy, his charity, other than to participate in his work in however small way we can. He doesn't ask for big things. He doesn't say, move me a mountain. He says, participate in my work, support. If you are a preceptor, give sittings. If you are a gardener, do some work in the garden. If you are a mason, lay a few bricks. He doesn't ask, he suggests. In the participation, you express your gratitude. He doesn't ask for it. There is no question of anything here in this mission, in Sri Ramchandra mission, for which the Guru asks or demands. This is something we must understand, you see. Because there are always frequent questions, oh, if I come to your ashram, do I have to volunteer for service? I said, not at all. When you say volunteer for service, it is on you to volunteer or not. Nobody asks for volunteers. We may ask for volunteers, in a general way, but the man who volunteers out of his own free will. So your participation in the master's work must be a question of your expression of your free will and your free desire to do what you want and how you want to do it. Today I want to sit and do, some watering of the plants. Yes, go ahead. That work is there too. I want to assist in the kitchen, says a young girl. Yes, go ahead. It will help you because you are unmarried. You learn something. It will help you in your future life. Here lies the secret of Babuji's suggestion that the more we work, the more fit we become for the future. Because if a girl learns how to wash vessels, how to purify water by boiling, how to light the fire with firewood, as is the custom in India, how to cook by watching the cooks, she goes better prepared to her husband and his family than she would otherwise. I remember when I went with Babuji in 1972 to Europe and the USA, and I was away with him for 3 months. I was alone with him. There was nobody else. Wherever we went, everything was new. For him, of course, everything was new. We had no friends, we had no sympathizers, we had no abhyasis, except one or two. Everywhere I had to cook for him. I used to make chapatis, some vegetable, because I had learnt earlier. I used to wash his clothes daily because he was always very, very clean and well-dressed. Not because he wanted it, but because we used to make him like that. He was always what I used to call a Kalyana Purusha, a bridegroom. Neat, clean, fastidious. beard trimmed, and his nose like this, always. He never looked into a mirror, but I will tell you something later about that. So I used to wash his clothes, cook his food, press his feet at night, fan him when there was no power. In Singapore, when we were there, it was horrible. Day and night, humidity above 80%. And heat, as you cannot imagine that with that humidity, we had 4 fans going, one here, one here, one here, one here. Suddenly current phase, and I've never known Babuji sweat, but there he was sweating, so we had to fan him. 2 sets of clothes a day. No Indian wears 2 sets of clothes a day. I wear 1 set per, sometimes even a week. And we don't stink. Whatever Europeans may say about stinking Indians, we don't stink. He was like that, you see, very, very gentle, very delicate, very clean. He used to tell me that from the smell of the perspiration of a person, he could write a chapter about his history, about his culture, about his vices, about his samskaras and his possible future. I say possible future because future is always possible to change. When is it possible to change? When you come to the feet of a capable guru. He can completely transform your future. How does he transform? Our future is determined by our past and by our present. If you are adding on to the load of samskaras, as I mentioned just earlier, we become grosser and grosser. Our future we determine. If you are able to clean yourself with the help of a guru, you become a little lighter each time. Your future is a little brighter. If the guru comes and you are able to practice constant remembrance and he removes the past samskaras, your future is there in one go. Therefore, Babuji said, in this very life, you must achieve the goal. Somebody said, why? He said, what do you know about whether there is a future life or not? No, Babuji, all religions speak of past and future lives. He said, yes, they speak, but has anybody experienced? No, but there are occultists who say, they speak of your past life, they go back into regression therapy. He said, that is all, everything can be imagined. I'm not questioning it, he said. I'm not questioning that it can be true. But is it true? And is it true for you? And why do you depend on it? Why can't you do this life what you want to do next life? You see? So I put in my own, or as it were. And I said, suppose you are the manager of a bank. And somebody said, you will be the managing director in your next life. Wouldn't you say, at least make me deputy managing director in this life, I am happier. Why do you want to put off spiritual growth into your next life? Babuji said, excellent idea, you see. Why should you wait for the best for the next year? No, you buy a lottery ticket now, you will get the prize next life. Who knows where we are going to be born? Who can say whether there is going to be a guru of caliber on this planet when we are born? And who can tell whether he and I will come together in the next life for me to benefit from him? Not at all, you see. He said this is foolishness of the highest order. It is like a man saying, I will marry in my next life. And you cannot be married in this life. What are you going to marry in next life? It is like a foolish fellow who cannot pass, I am telling you, matriculation in this life, who says, I will graduate in my next life. What you cannot achieve today may be impossible even tomorrow. So here and now, in this life, you have to determine to do it. You see? So there is no question of delaying. When shall I start meditation, master? He said, now. He said, what about tomorrow? Tomorrow may never come. And he used to soften the blow by saying, who knows whether I will be here tomorrow? Because he was already, when I met him first, I think he was 64 or 65. He was frail, he was weak. He had a very bad, his abdomen, acidity, always in pain. One day constipation, next day diarrhea. It was always, like seesaw, either down or up. No intermediate states. So that is very important, you see, this question of doing it here and now. And doing what he says to do. And I gave him, haircuts. And in USA at that time, they charged $5 or $7.50. And when I finished his haircut, he used to say, You have saved me $7.50 today. I said, give it. I would like to have it. It's a joke, you know. And you would say, what will you do with $7.50? Lalaji is waiting to give you much more. And then we were returning, you know, from Rome. It was the last leg. He said, you know, Parsarthi, how much you have benefited by coming with me. I said, I am conscious of it. I have got immense benefit by coming with you. He said, no, it is not just like that. I have also benefited from your presence. I said, how you can benefit by my presence? He said, well, you know, you have washed my clothes. I could not do it at my age. You have cooked for me. I don't know how to cook. And, Bhaiya, you have cut my hair. Now look here, he said, going back into joking mood, you know. You have learned 3 professions very well because you are with me. God forbid if you should lose your job, you see how much you can do. You see, you can open a barber shop or a laundry, or you can become a cook. See? And it was not only a joke. So therefore, when girls work in the ashram and boys work in the ashram, you know, they pick up so many skills without knowing it. These are skills. And when they marry, whether it's a boy or a girl, they have already corrected their character by Babuji's grace. Character means also how they behave. They don't go into extremes of behavior. They may get slightly angry, but they don't get enraged. Their passions are reduced to normal levels. So as I said, you know, everything is normalized. Their capacities are augmented. Their, you know, negative traits are normalized or below normal, to just keep it, you know, where nature and instinct must prevail too. And so that is the immense benefit of volunteering for service here. And of course, you know, the benefit of the atmosphere. Babuji was always talking about atmosphere, atmosphere, atmosphere. He said, I'm telling you, atmosphere is very important. You must preserve the atmosphere in the house in such a way that it becomes a temple. I want that every house should become a temple. I want that every house must have a preceptor in it. This he said in 1965, 40 years ago. I said, what do you mean? He said, atmosphere is created by thoughts and activities. He says, you go to a temple, you feel pious. It is not really your piety. It is the piety that is induced in you by the atmosphere there, because people are always worshipping, having holy thoughts. At least for that 10-15 minutes they are there. All this is accumulated and transforms the atmosphere. You go to the market, the atmosphere is different. Clamor, noise, bargaining, talk of money, you know. You go to, say, a butcher shop, it's different. Pain, anguish. This is all because the same activity is done again and again in that place. I remember once Kamlesh in New York arranged for a meeting in one old dance hall, converted dance hall. And I could feel, immediately I entered, I could feel the atmosphere, you know, it was awful. And then when I was doing the meditation, it was cold also, it was winter, I remember. It was cold and the atmosphere was so awful. I saw girls hanging. And I didn't know it was a converted dance hall, you know, whatever it was. Later on, he told me it was a converter. Maybe some girls committed suicide there. I mean, when the atmosphere is so bad, even an ordinary human being will feel that he will do like that, you know, he'll shiver, but he can't see what happened. If you are sensitive, you see, that is the problem of sensitivity. See. You can't run away from sensitivity, because without sensitivity, you are nothing. So you have to create something for that. We will talk about that later. So this atmosphere, by repeated meditation, the atmosphere in the place is purified. Every person who comes into this ashram says, when I cross the gate, it is different. This gate is as if it divides 2 different worlds. And of course it divides 2 different worlds. This is a spiritual world. Outside is the normal, humdrum world. So Babuji was always insisting on atmosphere. And he says, I look here, we must not spoil the atmosphere. Every time he came to my house here in Madras, he used to sleep in my house. And he was so happy. He said, in your house, I find the atmosphere nearest to the atmosphere in my own house in Shahjahanpur. Once he was quite upset. My father had fallen in Shahjahanpur and had a fracture. And he was very sick. He was almost dying. And he was in so much pain that even when we came back, he was still, in pain for about a couple of months. Third or fourth month, Babuji came. Just as he was about to get up the stairs, the steps in front of the house, he took off his chappals, stood there, and looked at me and said, Pasati, what have you done with the atmosphere in this house? I said, Babuji, I have done nothing, but why do you ask? He said, it spoils. I'm telling you, it is not good. It is not as it used to be. Then he went into the room occupied by father and said, I now understand, you see. It is his pain and his suffering that has caused this. I will clean it. That is another reason why we should suffer without suffering. You remember what I told you about Lalaji. Even when he had the acutest pain, he used to sing God's praise in the form of bhajans. Now that creates good atmosphere. He is suffering, but he is able to create a good atmosphere. We are suffering, we destroy the atmosphere. So you headache, and one Madeline Badash here and somebody else from there. Oh, darling, you are suffering. Oh, malnourished, mamma mia, I used to be very angry when I went to Europe and these people behave like this. Mild headache, you can't tolerate. And that comes to the question of atmosphere linked to tolerance. How much should I tolerate? And why? Somebody asked Babuji, why should I tolerate pain, Babuji? Don't you think it is